What's up, everybody? Welcome to a live episode of The Truth. Now, normally at 4 p.m. PT on a Thursday, we're talking about the hot mic. Well, not tonight, ladies and gentlemen, because Jeff Snyder is traveling back from the East Coast. So some of you may have seen my tweet earlier, but that is why we are not doing the hot mic right now at this time. And by the way, I did not anticipate going live at 4 p.m. PT tonight even. I had plans this evening. I was going to go see the Elvis in IMAX, the new epic film that's out in theaters now, and then go see Scream 7, which I might still go see Scream 7 depending on how long this live show goes. But right when I was sitting here finishing up watching Wuthering Heights, and I issued my tweet on that, which we'll talk about a little bit later on the show, this big news broke. So that's what we're here to talk about. This massive news broke that Netflix, Ted Sarandos and Netflix have pulled out of the deal. They have pulled out of the deal for Warner Brothers. They are no longer going to bid for Warner Brothers. And now Paramount, led by David Ellison with Daddy's money, is going to now get WB there with David Zaslav. Wasn't it just a few weeks ago that we saw all these photos of David Zaslav walking on the sets, on the studio lots rather, with Ted Sarandos and showing him all this stuff. Now I guess we're going to get new pictures of David Zaslav walking on the WB lot with David Ellison now, as he is essentially they haven't said officially they're the winner, but no one else has been bidding for WB. So essentially that is what's going to happen. And this all came about because Warner Brothers delivered another deal, their 10th attempt at a deal. Paramount delivered their 10th attempt on a deal for Warner Brothers, and then that was the final deal. We'll look at everything. We'll talk about it all here. We're here to talk about it. It's an emergency episode to talk about all this stuff. But this is also a place for those of you who are frustrated or angry or just despondent about this happening. And for those of you who may be excited about this, God forbid, about this happening, this is a place to hang out with us and have the conversation. And let me know what you think as we go along with all this kind of stuff. I would appreciate you all. If you want to send in some Streamlabs and Super Chats, those are open for you all to send in some support as we go along. But I might just read questions out of the chat as well, because I know some of you can't afford to send stuff in, but you have questions about this. So this is a wide open, free-range conversation here. This emergency live thing. Don't expect me to have all the information now downloaded. We're going to look and read a few articles together and look at this stuff together. You're going to get my honest reaction to all of it, because I'm still catching up myself on how all this went down and everything that happened here. And of course, as I said, sadly, Jeff is out of town today. We'll be back tomorrow at 4 p.m. PT on the hot mic, and we'll dive even deeper into this, because I'm sure more information is going to come out over the 24-hour news cycle. Plus, we'll have an episode of the Geek Buddies as well that come up this weekend to talk about this stuff and other stuff going on as well. That is the big lead story, is that Ted Sarandos has pulled out. So let's take a look at why this happened. Let's look at some of these articles, and I may read a few of these in a row here, but let's take a look at these situations here and have a conversation about these things and find out exactly what went down here. Let's take a look at the first article. Comes to us from the Hollywood Reporter. Let's take a look here. It says right here, let me see if I've got the right frame so you guys can see it. All right, let me make myself a little bit bigger, and then we'll make the article bigger as well. You know how it goes with these kinds of things. Boom, boom, boom. All right, so let's get out of these videos and yes, all that nonsense. All right, here we go. Netflix backs out of Warner Brothers bidding. Paramount set to win in a stunning twist. The streaming giant's co-CEO says Warner Brothers, quote, was always a nice to have at the right price, not a must have at any price. This was put at around 3:00, so just about an hour ago. This went out in a stunning twist. Netflix is declining to raise its bid for Warner Brothers, positioning David Ellison's Paramount as the winner in the battle for the fabled studio. Netflix co-CEOs Ted Sarandos, that's Ted, not Jed Sarandos, and Greg. That shows you how quickly they were writing this thing, because it's a shocker. Ted Sarandos and Greg Peters released a statement Thursday outlining their decision, namely that the deal is, quote, no longer financially attractive, and that it, quote, was always a nice to have at the right price, not a must have at any price. The transaction we negotiated would have created shareholder value with a clear path to regulatory approval. However, we've always been disciplined, and at the price required to match Paramount Skydance's latest offer, the deal is no longer financially attractive, so we're declining to match the Paramount Skydance bid. That's what the co-CEOs said there, Ted Sarandos and Greg Peters. Warner Brothers is a world-class organization, and we want to thank David Zaslav, Gunnar Windenfeld, Bruce Campbell, Brad Singer, and the WBD board for running a fair and rigorous process. They added, we believe we would have been strong stewards of Warner Brothers' iconic brands and that our deal would have strengthened the entertainment industry and preserved and created more production jobs in the U.S., but this transaction was always a, quote, nice to have at the right price, not a must-have at any price. With Netflix out, Paramount's latest bid is almost a sure thing to be accepted by the Warner's board, which determined earlier Thursday that it was a superior proposal. We'll get to that in a second, to Netflix's deal. P-Sky's latest proposal was for Paramount Skydance, that's what P-Sky stands for. Latest proposal was for $31 per share, but had a number of other sweeteners, including a ticket fee payable to shareholders equal to 25 cents per quarter beginning after September 30th, 2026, as well as $7 billion in regulatory termination in the event the transaction does not close due to regulatory matters. Paramount has also agreed to pay the $2.8 billion termination fee that Warner Brothers would be required to pay to Netflix to terminate the existing merger agreement. So Paramount will now pay Netflix $2.8 billion to come in and take WB instead of Netflix getting WB. So that is massive in that way, in how much money is being involved in this deal. If all goes as expected, Netflix will be on the receiving end of that $2.8 billion sooner rather than later. Netflix shares soared by more than 10% in after-hours trading after the decision was announced. We are pleased WBD's board has unanimously affirmed the superior value of our offer, which delivers to WBD shareholders superior value, certainty, and speed to closing, which means they want to get this done ASAP. Paramount CEO David Ellison said in a statement on Thursday before Netflix backed out of the bidding, Sarandos and Peters say they will continue to pour cash into content. Netflix's business is healthy, strong, and growing organically, powered by our slate and best-in-class streaming service. This year, we'll invest approximately $20 billion in quality films and series and will expand our entertaining offering. Consistent with our capital allocation policy, we'll also resume our share repurchase program. We will continue to do what we've done for more than 20 years as a public company, delight our members, profitably grow our business, and drive long-term shareholder value. And that's that article there from The Hollywood Reporter. So there it is in a nutshell, in essence, that this is the situation as it's gone down. Paramount offered a deal that was too good to be true for WB. They had been saying for every attempt that they felt they were the better choice for WB. There was a lot of drama behind the scenes, of course, with Trump and his administration and all the corrupt stuff that's going on there. And of course, if you guys didn't see the news, Ted Sarandos, which we'll get to in a second, had visited the White House as well to have a conversation with the Trump administration about this whole situation. But this is what is happening here, and this is pretty shocking and scary on so many levels. We'll get to the specifics of all of this, but my reaction to all of this is utter shock, horror, despondency, because we have seen this right-wing takeover of our media spreading throughout everything that is going on. You know, I was happy when we were balanced. We have CNN, we have MSNBC, you got Fox News, ONN, you've got the other side of things, Newsmax. There's a balance. Balance is important in a society. But what we've seen now is this right-wing takeover of our media, from TikTok to to CBS. See what's happening at CBS. Anderson Cooper resigning his position at 60 Minutes to not be a part of what's happening there at CBS, the corruption of the news at CBS, the fact that none of their contributors are that they've signed to be a part of CBS now going forward on the news division are liberals, Democrats, progressives, or even centrists. And if they are considered centrist, they're centrists who lean right. So there's no balance there. And I think that's the thing that's important to understand. There's been this cry from the right-wing side of things that, oh, we're being censored, we don't get to speak, even though they've got 5 million podcasts, 40 fucking networks, a shit ton of local television stations spewing their right-wing points of views. They have fooled people into thinking they've been censored all this time, which is utter nonsense. So now we have them taking over TikTok, taking over CBS, taking over Paramount, and now WB, and by extension will be taking over CNN. Now we're going to have even less places to go to who might criticize the president, criticize the right-wingers, criticize the GOP and the Republicans for the things that we're doing. And this is the thing that frustrates me on so many levels, because now we will not have balance. It'll be just a right-wing echo chamber pushing narratives. And of course, this is also going to affect the franchises that are involved and connected to WB, right? And listen, where do I have this up? I want to see if oh yeah, here we go. Let me bring this up. This is just a sample of what Warner Brothers will get their hands on. I think this is it. I think this is where's the one? I have like 10 windows up, guys. So I want to make sure I get the right one. Where is it? Damn it. I thought I had the one up with all the things that WB is going to get in this situation. Let's see here. Where is it? Okay. I think it's under the thing. Okay. Hold on, guys. I don't have a producer, so it's just me doing these things. So I beg for your patience here as I try to figure out which is the right one that we had this on. So let's see. No. Is it this one? Here we go. Okay, so these are the things that WB or that Paramount is now going to get from WB. Let me take down the graphic so you guys can see what I'm talking about here. This is what they're going to get. Paramount is now expected to own the following. I'm going to bring this up and get it a little bit closer as well so you guys can take a look at this as well. TNT, CBS, CNN, MTV, TCM, Turner Classic Movies, Showtime, Adult Swim, DC Studios, Paramount Plus, Nickelodeon, HBO, HBO Max, Comedy Central, Cartoon Network. They will have the film rights to Star Trek, which you know already, Gremlins, Beetlejuice, DC Comics, Tom and Jerry, Harry Potter, which is currently shooting a season right now, Harry Potter, Citizen Kane, God forbid, Transformers, A Quiet Place, Looney Tunes, The Conjuring, Mortal Kombat, Game of Thrones, Dora the Explorer, Mission Impossible, The Lord of the Rings, SpongeBob SquarePants, Avatar, The Last Airbender, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Dune 3, Minecraft, and the Monsterverse. That is what they will get their hands on here. I see my brother Eric Davis making a comment, First Order Business live action. I mean, it's fun to joke when it's not your white ass getting picked up by the right-wing takeover of this country, isn't it? It's fun to joke about this stuff when what this signals is a true takeover of our media and to push narratives that may vilify large sections of our country. And it's a really unsettling thing to think about. But I guess when you're a white critic, you can just joke about it and it's not that big of a deal because they're not rounding you up. And no offense there, I love Eric, but like, come on, man, this is not a time to joke about this kind of stuff. So this is really an unsettling situation when you look at it. And because the thing is, for me, I'm not about shutting down right-wing voices. It's not that I don't, I may not listen to all of it, but they certainly have a right to exist. But now we've tilted the balance so far the other direction that we are no longer in balance as a society. And I think this is a dangerous thing to look at here. Whatever the financials of all of this stuff is. And I know there are some people who are quietly happy that this is going down. They're not going to say it out loud, but there are some people even on the liberal side of things who are happy this is going down because they don't like Netflix. They don't trust Netflix. And they think that they would lose jobs as actors because, they're still pursuing their dreams. They still want to work in there, get those TV series and films out there. And they're not looking at the bigger picture. All they're caring about is, will I get to be on a show? Will I get to be in a movie? Will I get to direct my movie? And Netflix had promised a 45-day theatrical window and was ready to commit to that going forward if they had gotten WB. But clearly that was not the end result of all of this stuff. So now we go to the situation. Let's take a look at let me see if I've got the okay, so let's take a look at the deal so we have a good idea of why they took over this stuff. And I do want to hear from you guys, so keep sending in your Streamlabs and Super Chats. I'll be reading them in just a second. We got over 600 of you joining me live, which I appreciate madly. Thank you very much for joining me. Send in your love and support through Streamlabs Super Chats. You see it pinned in the chats in the description of the video as well. But let's get to the offer here and why it was considered a superior offer from Paramount for WB. Let's see here. Oh, have I got the thing? Okay, there you go. Let me take down this again. All right, here we go. Updated with Paramount. What's it? The thing here. Here we go. Okay. So let's go with it. Let's read this thing. All right. So updated with Paramount comment. Warner Brothers Discovery Board of Directors is ushering in a bidding war between Paramount and Netflix. The board announced Thursday, earlier today, that it had officially labeled Paramount's latest $31 per share offer a, quote, company superior proposal, a term with specific procedural meaning in the context of corporate mergers. Importantly, the description does not mean that the board has withdrawn its recommendation of Netflix's pending offer to shareholders. However, the move does trigger a period of 4 business days during which Netflix can respond. So it was the WB board who voted and decided that the Paramount deal at $31 per share, which I think the specifics will be here in a second, was the superior company superior proposal. By giving it that designation, that triggered the 4-day window. If they had said it was not a company superior proposal and turned down the proposal, then Netflix, in essence, would have probably been smooth sailing into taking over WB, and maybe Paramount would have been frustrated with the situation. Maybe they'd have launched an 11th bid, possibly. Who knows right now with the situation. We are pleased WBD's board has unanimously affirmed the superior value of our offer, which delivers blah, blah, blah. David Ellison, I read that already. It is now going to be the streaming giant's turn to decide whether to raise its offer or bail out of the battle, which it did. Its stock has already dropped almost 30% since deal chatter began last fall. That's also something to think about. As much as we would like Netflix to be the champion for resisting this right-wing takeover of the media, they've got to do what's best for their business. And if their stock has dropped 30% since the deal chatter began last fall, then they have a responsibility to address that. And looking at the financials, they realized that it wasn't in their best interest to go forward and go on top of the Paramount proposal over these next 4 days to try to match it and beat it, and get into an even more extensive bidding war with this whole situation. And look, their stock, as I said a few minutes ago, jumped up 10% after they let go of their bid for WB. So that should tell you something about where the stockholders felt. They felt more comfortable, what side they felt more comfortable on, which is the side to not get WB. Many investors and analysts saying the bid is at best a distraction, at worst an effort to paper over slowing growth in the company's core business. The scale of the Warner deal is nearly 100 times greater than any of the dozen or so M&A deals Netflix has done in its nearly 30-year history as a company. Netflix's $82.7 billion offers for the studios and streaming division of WB, while Paramount's bid was for the entire company, making them difficult to compare in apples-to-apples fashion. The Netflix proposal would entail WBD proceeding with the spinoff of its direct Discovery Global division, which is primarily the home of declining cable TV networks. The board news is the latest in tumultuous M&A process involving stories, blah, blah, blah. Netflix, blah, 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 blah. Okay, finally on Tuesday, WBD confirmed that Paramount's bid had moved up to $31 per share. It added new elements like a ticking fee of 25 cents a share starting on September 30th. The latest Paramount bid also stipulated a $7 billion termination fee payable by Paramount if the deal were to get derailed by regulators before closing, which would be impossible, considering David Ellison was at the State of the Union address for Trump. And Pam Bondi the other day got rid of the person who oversees antitrust cases there in the administration because she had been a thorn in the side of them in a previous couple of cases. And they didn't like that she wasn't 100% on board and just did everything the president said. The company would also pay the $2 billion breakup, which you talked about. After the 4 days, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so there is that one. I just wanted to kind of go over that one to get an idea of where we're at for this stuff. So yeah. So you see this crybaby shit, woke crazy Democrats. It's so over. It's not over. It's not over. Trump's approval rating is in the dirt. So like this idea of woke Democrats, it's nonsense. It's a fallacy in your fucking head. It's not true. There are plenty of great, good people in this country, millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of good people in this country who understand and don't like what is happening right now in our streets, what is happening right now with this right-wing takeover of entertainment. There's quite a lot of people. Now, you probably have 10 followers sitting at home in your mother's basement complaining about this, going, woke days are over, and your life still sucks, even though the woke days are over. So keep enjoying that nonsense, but it's not true. There are plenty of people who understand the nonsense that's going on right now and are pushing against it in any way that they can. The problem is that when you're dealing with people with this kind of money, they're usually conservative. They're leaning towards the right. They know that they have essentially an almost de facto authoritarian president in power, and they know they've got to cater to that president in order to get their deals done. That's what you see happening now. What's going to be the interesting situation is how people react to this. Will people stop watching this content? Will people, I mean, if you look at the numbers that came out yesterday about Paramount Plus and their other TV stuff, the CBS stuff, has gone down. Their profitability has gone down. People are not watching in the numbers that they watched before. The film content has gone up, but the TV stuff has gone down. So this is an interesting situation here when you see that happening. So I wonder, as this goes forward, what this means for the viewership of some of these networks and some of these situations here. Let's see, what else can we talk about? I want to talk about, okay, so Ted Sarandos realized that stuff was going down with the Netflix deal, and so he went to the White House. So let's take a look at this. He said, Ted Sarandos heads to the White House. Let me see if I've got it big enough on the still. Yeah, I got to take down the thing here and make myself bigger. Wait, there was a comment that came up. Where's this comment? Do quick Ryan, I'm Hispanic. I said, you don't speak for us. Motherfucker, I don't speak for you. Never said I spoke for you, bitch. Speak for yourself. Get yourself a YouTube channel and learn how to speak. Fuck. Who's telling you I speak for you? All right, let's move on to what I was looking at here. Where is it? Oh, no, where did I put it here? Okay, here we go. Yeah, so James Cameron was certainly helping out David Ellison when penning a February 10th letter to Senator Mike Lee, opining as to why it would be disastrous for the movie business if Netflix were to close its $82.7 billion deal to Warner Brothers. The merger battle has intensified on all fronts, blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, Netflix co-CEO Ted Sarandos is off to Washington, D.C. for a meeting Thursday at the White House. Sources can confirm the most revealing spat in terms of Hollywood circles was when Cameron's letter came to light on February 19th, days after he'd sent it to Mike Lee. In the letter, Cameron positions Netflix acquisition of Warner Brothers as a bad deal that reduced the number of theatrical releases at a perilous time for alien exhibitors, take away consumer choice, and reduce the number of buyers who can invest in projects. We'll get to Cameron in just a fucking minute. Sarandos addressed Cameron immediately, telling Fox Business Network on February 20th, I'm particularly surprised and disappointed that James chose to be a part of the Paramount disinformation campaign that's been going on for months about this deal. He also revealed that he spoke with Cameron around Christmas and discussed his pledge to a 45-day exclusive window. He said Cameron didn't raise any concerns or objections, but instead discussed headphones he was developing for the home. There you go. Of course, James didn't discuss it. James, big man James, couldn't handle a little confrontation. During a D.C. hearing, Sarandos also said he is committed to giving Warner Brothers titles a 45-day exclusive run in theaters. This is not a tentative goal or flexible guideline. It's a hard number and a firm commitment. He read it in a follow-up note sent to Lee's office after he learned of Cameron's letter. Cameron sending this letter on the down low instead of putting it out there so that people know where James Cameron stands. I think that's a cowardly move, a gutless move to be doing that shit. And listen, I'm going to tell you my truth about the situation, because I'm not sitting here on an outlet begging you scared to lose the contact to James Cameron, scared that he won't come on the show, scared that I won't get to interview the great James Cameron. Nonsense, man. I think it's ridiculous what Cameron did. Sending that letter was ridiculous as hell. Cameron definitely recalled some of Sarandos' more remarkable marks when talking about why the theatrical experience doesn't matter. Yeah, he'd said that. God forbid a guy defend his streaming service so that it could keep working and he could make more money for it. I mean, I don't understand how Cameron didn't put that into context, just like Cameron is defending Paramount getting WB so that he can keep working, or directors can keep working overall. All right, is that all the stuff for him? Okay, so Mark Ruffalo pushed back on James Cameron, said, so the next question, Mr. Cameron, should be this: are you also against the monopolization that a Paramount acquisition would create, or is that just of Netflix? I think the answer would be very interesting for the film community here, one that should be asked immediately. Is Mike Lee against the Paramount sale as well? Is he as concerned about that as he is the Netflix sale? Lee, we know, is a self-proclaimed MAGA guy for sure. And so this is an interesting situation when you look at this. Ted went to the White House, wanted to have the conversation with the president, and he went today, Thursday, today. So that tells me that he probably heard what the president had to say. He probably got the message very clear from his administration. Listen, I have no sources to tell me that this happened. I'm just putting two and two together and speculating. And I'm sure he got the message, hey, we're not going to vote for you. We're going to drag this thing out. We're not going to let you have it. And you're going to spend a lot of money in court cases with all this stuff. We're going to side with Paramount. We're going to side with Ellison. They are supporters of us. David showed up to the State of the Union address, and that's the deal. Deal with it. And I have a feeling that's what happened there. And Ted looked at what was going on and said, there's no logical reason for me to keep going with this because, our stocks are down 30%. We've got issues going on here with our business model that possibly may be affected by this deal if we go for an extended, protracted period of negotiation. And it's clear to us that the president and his people are not going to be on our side to help us with a regulatory approval. So we got to get the fuck out of here. I don't think Netflix wanted to pull out. I think they wanted to buy Warner Brothers. I think he wanted to keep this thing. But now they have pulled out because it just doesn't make sense business-wise for them to keep going with this kind of stuff. Now, as to the James Cameron of it all, I find this to be hilariously hypocritical. Here's a guy who just made billions of dollars on 3 installments of Avatar, which is a cliched story about the colonizers attacking people to colonize them and take their natural resources. And here he is siding with the MAGA side of things, who are basically the colonizers. And so to me, I find the hypocrisy of that just mind-blowing, absolutely mind-blowing when you look at it. And I think Mark Ruffalo asked the right questions of Cameron. Do you like this idea? Like, because what does Cameron care? Because Cameron doesn't even live in America anymore, ladies and gentlemen. Cameron lives in New Zealand. He lives in New Zealand. Okay, he sits on his palatial mansion, sipping his Mai Tais on the balcony of his fucking house. There's mansion, as I said, there in New Zealand. So if this country goes to shit fighting each other, what does he care? Even his quotes, what he said about leaving America, he said, America doesn't believe in science anymore. It's way too divided, and I just don't feel safe there anymore. In essence, something like that. Those aren't exact words, but he in essence said that. In fact, you know what? I'll look it up so that we don't have any kind of issues about what he actually said, and nobody goes like, that's not what he really said, man. So let's look at it. James Cameron, here we go. He's leaving. This is from The Guardian. Cameron shot most of the recent Avatar, blah, 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 blah. He said he described the U.S. under Donald Trump as, quote, like watching a car crash over and over, and said his New Zealand citizenship was imminent. This is a month ago in January 23rd. The director further elaborated his reasons in a new interview on In Depth with Graham Bensinger, saying that he made the move, quote, for his sanity. New Zealand had eliminated the virus completely. They actually eliminated the virus twice. The third time when it showed up in a mutated form, it broke through. But fortunately, they already had a 98% vaccination rate. This is why I love New Zealand, said James Cameron. People there are, for the most part, sane, as opposed to the United States, where you had a 62% vaccination rate and what's going the wrong direction. Where would you rather live, he said? A place that actually believes in science and is sane and where people can work together cohesively to a common goal, or a place where everybody's at each other's throats, extremely polarized, turning its back on science, and basically would be in utter disarray if another pandemic appears. How can you say all of this and then go on the side of the people who have pushed the anti-vax point of view, of the people who have created the polarization and invested in the polarization, or have made money off the polarization and the divisiveness, and be on that side in order for them to get WB? It's such an incoherent logic that it just fascinates my mind that you can have such a cognitive dissonance and believe that shit's in a vacuum. Oh, the studio stuff's in a vacuum versus how America is. It's like, no, the people who are taking over the studio are going to push their narratives now, especially because they're going to buy CNN. So now we're going to see CNN go the way of CBS, and all that divisiveness that Cameron is crowing about while he sits there sipping his Mai Tai in his palatial mansion in New Zealand will now come to bear here in this country, but he's not going to have to deal with it. He's going to be sky high, flying high in New Zealand. He's not going to have to deal with the shit that's going to go down. So what the fuck does he care, right? And this is it was so frustrating to me when I saw his fucking letter, because I was just like, this is such a cowardly way out. Yes, I don't blame him from getting out of the U.S., but if you get out of the U.S., don't start chiming in and pushing your points of views to make other people do certain things or feel like they've got an impetus to do certain things. I think that's the problem for me when I look at this thing. Man's got a right to go live where he wants. Of course, it's a free world. In some countries, it's a free world to go and live where you want to live, but to come back and try to influence a situation to go in the direction of the people that you claim to be against is truly something that it just makes absolutely no sense to me when you look at it logically. So it's just kind of surprising to me on so many levels that Cameron would do that, right? Hold on. And you know why, John Green? I don't mean the Green fucking party. Yeah, you're right. I agree with you. Yeah, exactly. It's about making that money, man. It's about making that money. So Anderson says, James could die today and still have his legacy. What about the young filmmakers today who want to be the next Cameron? They won't get a chance. Why won't they get a chance? Netflix said they'd have a 45-day theatrical window. Netflix has had a lot of young filmmakers from all over the world show their content on Netflix. Have you perused content on Netflix? There are so many movies from young filmmakers that a lot of you people haven't even heard of. I guarantee you a lot of people that Andrea Camp hasn't heard of who do have movies there on Netflix that you can watch that are from all over the world, including America. There's a lot of independent movies on Netflix. There's a lot of independent documentaries on Netflix. I love to watch Netflix. There's so many things that I get tuned into and directors and creatives that I get turned on to that I didn't know about when I watched Netflix. So this idea that, this would all dry up and we'd never see movies in theaters anymore. Let me tell you something. Theaters are dying. Theaters are dead. Okay, theaters are dying, close to dead. What we're going to see is very, very limited theaters. It came out yesterday here in San Diego that AMC is looking to close more theaters. There are 9 theaters in San Diego and AMC that are AMC theaters in San Diego. And I don't know how many of those are going to be shut down, but they're on the list to possibly be shut down. The iPic Theater today, some of you know who live in the West Coast, iPic Theaters, I don't know if they're in the Midwest or on the East Coast, but I know there was a Pasadena one. iPic Theaters filed for bankruptcy today. So this idea that you think theaters are going to stay afloat, more movies are going to get made because Paramount buys Warner Brothers is an absolutely incorrect belief. It is not going to happen. And how do these filmmakers come through? What if these filmmakers that you want to see, Andrea Camp, what if these filmmakers have progressive points of views, have liberal points of views, want to do films that call out the white power structure for how it abuses people of color or black people, or do an anti-ICE movie, or maybe they want to focus on something like a heated rivalry, an LGBTQ plus story. Where are they going to be able to tell those stories in a right-wing controlled situation with Paramount and WB? Nowhere. That's where. You know what I'm saying? So there's going to be less opportunity. That's the thing. That's what we're going to see here, man. To me, I look at the fallout of all this, and I get concerned about where we're going next. I get concerned about what's going to happen in this situation and what the fallout is going to be from all of this. Because I just listed all those franchises. Are all those franchises now going to start looking at only bringing in right-wing filmmakers? Are we like today we had the announcement that Jonathan Majors, his next movie is going to be starring in a film for the Daily Wire. Does the Daily Wire, as a right-wing, far right-wing company led by Ben Shapiro, do they now start making deals with Warner Brothers, start making deals with Paramount? Are we now going to see less and less films that focus on the progressive point of view, the democratic point of view? Hell, screw that. The human point of view of accepting people for who they are, of calling out injustice, calling out authoritarianism, is something like Andor, which of course is Disney, so it's not under the auspices of a right-wing control. But if something like Andor, is that going to be made here now with Warner Brothers or Paramount? Is that going to be disallowed? Is a series that is essentially kind of pseudo mirroring what is happening in our country now? Will that not be allowed to be shown? What about documentaries from countries that are run by dictators? Will those documentaries not be seen on Paramount or Warner Brothers? So when you talk about, there's, I just want to see more creators make their stuff. If they have, and a lot of creators usually are much more left-leaning, which is why we have so much change that has happened through movies and TV shows. Will we not see them be able to ply their trade in 2 of the major studios? That's going to be sad to see if that's the way it goes down. You know what I'm saying? And so this is what scares me when you look at all this. And eventually they're going to, when they take control of CNN, you're going to get CNN becoming essentially CBS, right? And remember a few months ago on the hot mic, I said this to Jeff, that Trump is going to want to have control of everything. Jeff thought it was ridiculous. And to Jeff's credit, he has, apologized a few weeks ago and said, you were right about all of this stuff. And I was, and I am. I knew what was coming. I knew 10 years ago where we were headed down the path with all of this stuff, unfortunately. And, and again, I'm not trying to silence right. I think it's good to have a healthy debate. I think it's good to have all points of views out there in the world so we can consider them and think about them and focus on them. But there's never been a time where the right-wing point of view has never had equal time in our world. Never. Literally never. Zero. It's a lie. Anybody telling you that is lying. There have always been right-wing outlets that people can go to and learn this stuff. The advent of social media really exploded that. YouTube exploded that, but all of that stuff. So there's always been a balance in our world. Now what we're seeing possibly is the turn in another direction. And I wonder where this all leads us, and what the end result of all of this is going to be. And what's going to happen to things like DC? What is going to happen with James Gunn? Is he going to stay on? Because James Gunn's politics do not line up with MAGA politics or right-wing politics. So does James Gunn go, you know what, I'll do Man of Tomorrow and then I'm out of here? Do they bring someone new in to bring this stuff? And I know some of you Snyder fans are like giddily jacking off like spider monkeys, excited that Snyder might be coming back coming back maybe to do the Snyderverse at WB because you see his films as right-wing fantasy films. I don't agree, but I know some people feel that way about them. I don't know. Does that now start to become more of a possibility that could happen? Does this become a Wild West type of situation? And truly, how many creators are going to want to come and work for Warner Brothers and Paramount on these franchises? I know we've seen with Star Trek, we have seen, was it Daly and Goldstein take over, which is really great. But how many of those people are out there who are going to want to come in and work under a right-wing led, right-wing point of view, right-wing pushing, POV pushing studio and be asked about it in interviews, or be called out about it on social media? That's going to be really curious to see, because I haven't seen many great right-wing creators. They're really not that many. Content creators, certainly on YouTube, whatever, TikTok, enjoy yourself, knock yourself out doing your little dances with your red hats. But actually running studios, actually being in charge of franchises, there aren't that many, if at all. So I'm going to be curious to see how that goes down. Will that affect the product? Will that affect the quality of all this stuff? Will that affect who gets cast? Will that affect the casting of this? Will it be all white with the occasional token person towing the line being used? Are we going back to the days of the magical Negro? Are we going back to the days of the person of color dying so that the white lead can succeed? Are we going back to the days of women on screen only talking about the lead and no one else, and not having their own conversations, their own agency, their own depth? I don't know. There's questions abound with all of this stuff that is supremely frustrating when you look at all this stuff. So I don't know. I don't know what happens. And you look at something like Night of the Seven Kingdoms, which explores the fallacy of the rich and the Nepo babies and the people in power. Will those kind of stories not be able to be told at Warner Brothers? Or will they be seen that the people in power are more the leftist guys? Look at that person being woke. Look at that person wanting diversity. Vilify them. Is it going to be that kind of nonsense? I don't know, but it's certainly a situation to be monitoring this with all of this stuff. So I'm just concerned all of this. And you start to wonder how many people are going to want to work for Paramount, are going to want to work for WB. Are they going to want to work for these the right-wing leaning points of views? Are they going to want to be a part of this thing? Is going to be, and are there going to be layoffs? And what are the size of the layoffs that are going to happen here? Are there going to be loyalty tests like we saw the government deliver to their respective departments, where they had to say, are you loyal to Trump? Are you loyal to the MAGA point of view? Are you loyal to the GOP? Is that going to be something that is pushed on the people who work there? Are they going to have to sign an agreement to say that they have to work they have to agree with this point of view in order to do all this stuff? So it's just kind of crazy when you look at all this as it goes down. Because to me, yes, I know people were afraid that Netflix taking over Paramount. They didn't really believe Ted Sarandos when he was saying like, oh, the 45 theatrical window, all of that. They didn't believe him. But at least Netflix has a history of right-wing content and diverse content. They have a great balance of both to reflect all of the world, and not just in America, but all of the world. And so whatever your point of view is, there is content for you. I don't think that's going to be the case for Warner Brothers or Paramount. So that was the thing that I think would have been the saving grace with the Netflix situation, is Paramount would have continued with this, WB would have continued with this approach here, that you would have had, yes, some right-wing content, but a lot of left-wing content as well. So we'd have had the balance. Now I fear the balance will be completely shifted, and it's going to be interesting to see where we go on this whole situation and where it all leads to and where we end up, for God's sake. So, well, let's answer some of your questions. Some of you guys have sent in some of these super chats, and I've been talking for 40 minutes straight. So let's hear some of you all here. Kane7173, how are you guys doing? Hey, Jeff, was wondering if you've heard anything about the male counterpart, Ryan Coogler's X-Files. Deadweiler is a really great choice for a female companion, in my opinion. Now, Kane must think we're doing the hot mic today. We're not. Kane, we're doing it tomorrow. If I remember, I will read your comment tomorrow on the hot mic there at 4 p.m. PT. I'll ask Jeff about this. And yes, Danielle Deadweiler has been cast as the lead in the X-Files movie, and that's going to be interesting to see how that turns out. Between the panels, Love the show, Rocha. I'm a conservative, but even I have to agree with you that this is bad. And just want to let you know I appreciate your point of view. Thank you, Between the Panels. I appreciate your point of view. I appreciate you coming in and you're willing to have a back and forth and give me some respect, and I'll give you the respect right back. So thank you, man. And I appreciate you understanding that this is bad. Being conservative is not the same as being MAGA or Trump lover. Those are two different things. Being a Republican even doesn't mean you're a MAGA or Trump lover. You know, those are two different things. So you got to be, I hope I'm being clear about that. As I said, I like all points of views. I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting to listen to right-wing points of views as long as they're delivered in genuine honesty. I don't think it's good to listen to a lot of the MAGA points of views or the Trump-loving points of views because they're very much in a vacuum. They're very much clear about, like, there's not any room for negotiation or conversation. And there's a lot of dishonesty in their points of views pushed on by their alternative facts that they use as the foundation for their points of views. I love a healthy debate. You all know that. I love to battle with people. I really enjoy it because you get something out of it. As long as the battle is from an honest place, as long as the battle is from a place of trying to understand each other, not from a place of trying to destroy each other. And that's where I think is the problem. Thank you, Between the Panels. Josh Donkowall. What's up, Josh? Is it just sending in support? Appreciate all the content, John. Cheers. Thank you, Josh. I appreciate you, brother. I hope you and the lady are doing well, man. You've been one of the new people to come on to be noticed here on our channel, and I got to tell you, I appreciate you very much, bro. Corn Emperor says, buy physical media. There will be edits. Oh, you're probably right. You're probably right, bro. You're probably right. Yeah. I mean, I have physical media on both of these shelves. You guys can see my physical media on both these shelves. I love physical media. I buy 4K all the time. I need it madly. Freddie Boy 13 says, Ben Shapiro got Jonathan Majors. What a nice day. Oh, yeah, I know. To me, that's sad. That's pathetic. The man, let's put this, you know what? Let's do I have it here? Yeah, let's talk about it. I mean, this is, he is going to do a film for the Daily Wire, Jonathan Majors. He's shooting a first movie in 4 years as cameras roll this week in South Carolina on an untitled action film from the Daily Wire and Bonfire legend. Kyle Rankin, I have no idea who that is. Run, Hide, Fight is directing from his own screenplay. The title, plot, and other cast are being kept under wraps, but the story is said to be in the vein of 80s and 90s action movies, Red Dawn and Toy Soldiers, which were both about groups of teenage boys who had to band together to defeat invading enemies. So, yeah, that's the situation there. Jonathan Majors going from possibly being the main villain in a Marvel universe, coming off of a number of great films, people really enjoying his work. And now he's desperately doing work as a lead in a movie for the Daily Wire. Someone posted this meme on Reddit, and I thought it was perfect. Look, children, it's a falling star. Yeah, that was Eddie Murphy years ago. That was in there, but someone put Jonathan Majors' face in there. Look, I think Jonathan's an incredible actor. I haven't seen Magazine Dreams yet, but I remember falling in love with him as a performer in The Last Black Man in San Francisco, and I've enjoyed him in his work through Loki, in his work in a number of places, seeing what he can deliver and what he can do as an act in Defy Bloods. Like, it's incredible. You're working with Spike Lee, you're working with Marvel, you're working with all these places. Yeah, it was a terrible situation what happened with you and your girl. And look, shit goes down in relationships, and not to excusing any kind of physical violence that happens in relationships, but stuff goes down in relationships. The video came out. There's a path where Jonathan could have said, you know what? I made some mistakes here. I got to take a look at myself. I'm going to grow from this. And then John works his way back into the public consciousness. Jonathan takes smaller parts, and the public forgives. The public always forgives if you show legitimate penance, I guess, for what you did, and you go through the process of being reaccepted again back into society. Mel Gibson, who's about the most vilified person you could find a few years ago, was able to come back into Hollywood to get nominated for 6 awards for his film Hacksaw Ridge, including him getting nominated for Best Director. So if he could make it back into Hollywood, most anybody can make it back into Hollywood if you show the proper amount of like understanding of what the mistakes were, you apologize, and you do the work on yourself. I think Jonathan Majors had an avenue come back. But this is what the situation is now for him, and he has to I think this is a bad move for him overall, but maybe he sees that the right-wing leaning point of view is where is what's happening in Hollywood. And so he's going to take advantage of that and find his way back into this situation. That's another thing when you look at this. Will all these people who've been moved out, will we now see like Gina Carano leading WB films or Paramount films? Will we see Zachary Levi coming back to lead some of these films as they bomb? I don't know. It's going to be really interesting to see how this all goes down with Paramount and WB and the projects they choose, the directors, actors, writers, and stories that they choose to greenlight to make and film as films or TV shows. Going to be real curious to see all that as well. All right, see, thank you so much for that one, Freddie. Gregory True says, I see it. Citizen Kane 2 now with more Coke, more Coca-Cola, and a lot of crappy ice in the drinks. I live in Minnesota. It's hard to get rid of ice. Yeah, heartbreaking what's going on for you guys in Minnesota, man. I mean, just really just sad to see all that. And then seeing today where that quack Dr. Oz was up there praising the fact that they're going to make you guys jump through more hoops to get your Medicaid, withhold funding, hundreds of millions of dollars of Medicaid aid to people in the state. It's horrible what they're doing to people and what they're doing to the disabled, the hurt, the elderly people in our society with everything that's going down, man. So my heart goes out to you all there in Minnesota, brother. It is a tough situation when you have that going down and the focus being put on your state, trying to cripple your state, sadly. Jody Money, what's up? Jody says, hey, John, was Ted Sarandos' immediate rejection of removing Susan Rice from the Netflix board an omen for this outcome? If Netflix intended to stay in the game, wouldn't the Sarandos response have been more subtle? Yeah, I'll tell you this. Hold on, let me take a drink. I'm not going to reveal who I heard this from, and I'm not going to reveal my sources. But I got a text on Sunday afternoon from a source of mine who said to me that a group of people are scrambling together to have an emergency Netflix meeting at 7 p.m. PT that night. I think it was Sunday or Saturday. It was over the weekend. It was Saturday or Sunday night. And the source told me this because one of the people, they were about to go meet that person to hang out with them. And that person said, I can't meet up with you now. I got to head over. I got called into this emergency meeting. Now, I don't know if that emergency meeting happened. I don't know if that meeting was to tell them, listen, it's pretty clear that Paramount's going to come in with a bigger bid. We're not going to do this. We've got to have our, we're not going to go forward with the bid. So we need to have we need to craft a message to have ready when we decide we're going to pull the bid. Or did they discuss the Susan Rice situation and decided not to oust her? And maybe they realized, look, as much as we'd like to stop the right-wing takeover of the media, we have to preserve our own kind of section of the media landscape, and tossing out board members at the behest of a president is not how we want to do business. And so in a lot of ways, I respect that Netflix didn't want to play the game in that way and essentially gut themselves to make Trump happy, because he's not the kind of person that will be like, okay, you did one thing for me, that's fine. He's the kind of person that's, well, you did this for me, now you need to do this for me. It'll never end. And so I think Netflix felt that they were in the right to not do that and keep it for what they want to keep it for. The All Yankee says, thanks, Rocha, for taking time to get us this 411. Yeah, I hope I'm giving you guys the information that you need. As I said, I'm reacting to all of this as it's happening. Tim Bina says, Zaslav gets $567 million for the sale. He gets blamed too. Yeah. I guess. I don't know if he gets blamed, bro, because he kind of ratcheted the price of Netflix. The people who should be getting a massive bonus are Abdi and DeLuca. And I guess James Gunn. But Abdi and DeLuca, really, because of how much the films that they greenlit, which a lot of people were questioning, made money. Sinners made money. Minecraft movie made money. A lot of these WB movies made money this past year. And so that upped the price on WB as well. Because if those movies had come out and shit the bed, I think the price would have been a lot lower overall. Maybe Netflix stays in the game if the price had been a lot lower. So that's what I tell people all the time. Nothing occurs in a vacuum. Too many people see like whatever's in front of them. And the truth is, you have to look at all the things that are involved in all of this. Everything is connected. Everything feeds into itself. And I think this is important to understand. When people say to me, oh, don't get distracted. It's not about being distracted. Okay, that's another piece in the same puzzle. That's what people don't understand. Like, don't get the hockey team, it's distracting you. Nonsense. Nonsense. The hockey team, what happened with the hockey team is an extension of what is already happening in our country. It's an example of it. All right. It doesn't distract me from the Epstein files. It doesn't distract me from the corruption going on in other places and the shit going down in the streets, sadly. It's just another element of it, and today it came out that some of these people are putting together a plan to take over the elections. And I've been predicting that for a while, but it's still scary to see it actually kind of start to come into motion, which is really scary. Rocha Daly says, how many jobs will we lost now because of this? Thousands and thousands of jobs will be lost for sure. For sure. Because again, what did I say? Will they do a loyalty pledge to work for WB or Paramount? Like, will they do it? And will the people who work for these companies be okay working for the content that's going to be produced by these companies if the content skews hardcore right-wing or right-wing in a way that makes them uncomfortable, especially women, people of color, black people, white people who understand that this is wrong, like, conservative voices, as my brother up here between the panel said, conservative voices who realize this is wrong. Will they want to stick around? I don't know. So it's an interesting situation to look at for sure. DeAndre Mosley says movies that push boundaries like Sinners would never be made under Paramount control Warner Brothers. Yeah, that's very true. And now you go, someone said to me, well, I just love movies. I want them to make movies. Well, as I said, if Paramount and WB start limiting the points of views of the movies that they want to make, then a lot of the empathetic left, liberal, progressive movies, which are a majority of the movies that get made, by the way, and make money, if they move over to other studios, there's going to be a glut of them. So less of them are going to be made because studios can't greenlight them all. The studios that are left that are willing to do those kinds of movies, they can't greenlight them all. So then it becomes a situation where less movies are going to be made that have those points of views as a balance to what's going on. So this does not mean we've saved or they've saved movies. It's utter nonsense to think that. Matt Sitters McCall says, Dork Matt Walsh said he hates films where women beat up men. There's nothing hotter than a woman that can kick your ass. Ronda Rousey can kick his ass. Well, sure. She can kick a lot of dudes' asses for sure. And we'll see what she does in that match with Ronda Rousey coming up on Netflix. That'll be interesting. But yeah, I mean, no surprise. I mean, the fragility of men nowadays is really kind of stunning to me to witness, especially on the right wing side of things. I'm just stunned at the fragility of some of the men there, for God's sakes. Like, women being powerful is not an offensive thing. Like, it's hilarious to me. Have you guys seen that TikTok video where that bodybuilder comes in and challenges that female martial artist, and she puts him on his ass and chokes him out to where he fucking taps out? It's just nonsense. This idea that men are better. Cartoon 49 says, question is, will we see films like Sinners and One Battle After Another? It's a great question. It's a great question. And I think, as I said, nothing happens in a vacuum. If you saw recently, Paul Thomas Anderson was asked about One Battle After Another. He was asked about the politics that are going on nowadays as it's connected to One Battle After Another. And he said, I don't talk about politics. I'm a filmmaker, and I just want to talk about my film. We're seeing that more and more. Neil Patrick Harris delivered that ridiculous response where he's like, I only want to do apolitical things. Neil Patrick Harris donates to numerous left-leaning causes, has been one of the biggest vocal voices about gay marriage in the years past, but now he just wants to do apolitical stuff. I mean, it's nonsense. These are all creators who are trying to stay alive in a business where it's starting to move towards the right wing, and they're scared that they won't be able to keep working. They're scared that they won't be able to bring in the money they were bringing before. Now, all of a sudden, they don't want to talk their politics. When it was a much more left-leaning Hollywood, they were wide open with the biggest mouth possible talking about their politics. But now that it's right-leaning, they're afraid to lose projects and lose money. So if you can't make a stand when you might lose something, your stand means nothing to me when you're not going to lose anything. This is why I felt like what Baratheon said in the finale to Dunk when he's against that tree about Baelor, when he said to him, he risked nothing. Yeah, I thought that was an incredible line to deliver for all of us who were sad that Baelor had died. He was reminding us what the Targaryens are actually like and the history of the Targaryens. and that Baylor was fighting his own people who had no investment to beat him up because he was possibly going to be the future king. And he might remember this Kingsguard guy that beat him up. It had to be his brother. So, these are things you got to look at. So, all right. Anyway, Chris Corcoran says David Ellison has talked about blacklisting actors he deems, quote, anti-Semitic when they support Palestine. We might see more Melissa Barrera situations. I would not doubt it. I think that's very much a possibility going forward in the future. And again, I don't speculate on that particular issue because I think that issue is very complex. I'm only ever on the side of I do not want innocent people to die in that conflict. I am very sad when I see innocent people on either side of that conflict die because of what's going on in the rage and the anger and the revenge and the wars that have gone on for centuries in that region. And so, yes, I think Melissa Barrera had every right to take her stance. I also think they had every right to fire her because they felt she wasn't representative of their points of views. That's a business. That's a free market capitalist system. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think people protesting Scream 7 have a right to protest Scream 7. And I think people who don't want to protest it and want to protest their protest have a right to protest their protest. That's the way it works. Kevin Williamson, I think, delivered a really great answer last night on the red carpet that spoke directly to that. And I thought he eloquently addressed that situation. But yes, will we see a blacklist of actors from David Ellison? That's very possible over at Paramount and WB. Doug Developer, what's up, Doug? Says CNN being taken over doesn't make much of a difference. Them and all corporate media had done this to themselves. Like you said, Rocha, the nuance is gone. Yes, but I mean, there were people pushing back. Jake Tapper, even though he sold out on the Biden thing, Jake Tapper has pushed back on right-wing senators and representatives who've come on his network. Caitlin Collins has become a really strong person to push back on the president and the disrespect the president has delivered to her at times. She has pushed back and asked hard questions. Jim Acosta has done a great job pushing back and asking hard questions. I think Abby Phillip does a great job at night coordinating that jungle or that zoo that is everybody on her show when all those guests are yelling at each other, Scott Jennings and Anna Navarro and all those people, and Moynihan, all those people. So there are people at CNN who are pushing back on this Trump administration. So I do think there is a difference, Doug. I think there will absolutely be a difference. But I do think you're right in what you said, that a lot of the news media secretly wanted Trump to win because their ratings were much better under the first Trump administration than they were under the Biden administration. And since Trump has gone full trying to be in control of everything in this country, their ratings have probably gone up even more because people are watching this stuff. So, yeah. Gregory Top Truth says, love the Truth Show. Kudos. Love a good debate. Thank you, Gregory. I appreciate that. Much love to you. Master McCall says, Rocha, who gets dork of the week? Can't use Trump. I would never call Trump a dork. He's not a dork. He's not a dork. Who gets dork of the week? Oh, Mark Wayne Mullen. Mark Wayne Mullen is your dork of the week. For him trying to snatch that sign out of Representative Al Green's hand and missing. He couldn't even do that right. And then going on to CNN and saying how that Iran has rebuilt their nuclear facilities just like people rebuild their legs after a car accident. I mean, that is just beyond the pale, for God's sake. So yes, he gets dork of the week for sure. Cowboys fan says, God, this shit's sad and scary as fuck. John, love you, bro. People need to understand how realistically Hunger Games like this is now. Yeah, I don't disagree. And I think people like me are going to eventually be silenced. We're going to be threatened or in some way, people are going to let us know that they don't like what we're doing when we push back. And I may stop doing it. I don't know, to be honest with you. I don't know. It's kind of scary right now to see this happening step by step because it's out of step with what a majority of the American public wants. And isn't that the way that it goes? That when authoritarian regimes come in, they use their excuses to take control, but a majority of the populace does not like what they're doing. And so I just don't understand all of this approach. And I don't understand how we're letting it happen. I don't understand how we're not pushing back stronger. I don't understand how people aren't up in arms in terms of upset about it more, not grabbing us. I don't believe in violence. Why aren't they more up in arms and protesting the stuff, being out there, pushing their representatives and their senators to do more? Just kind of mind-blowing to me to look at it. So Wayne Fern 77 says, I hate Paramount, but surely they're not dumb enough to get rid of the creatives like Abdi and DeLuca and Gunn that made WB money this past year, right? Bro, I think anything is on the table. And I think anything is possible because it's not even about them getting rid of Abdi and DeLuca. Do Abdi and DeLuca even want to stay? Does James Gunn even want to stay? These are the questions that come to the front of my mind. Do people want to stay in this situation or not? Yes, they might get rid of him. That's certainly very possible, and they have a right to do so. They've purchased the company. Again, I'm not complaining that they will get rid of people. That's their right. If they've purchased the company, they have a right in the capitalist system to get rid of the people they don't want to have in their company. It sucks, but it's the truth. They have a right to do this. I'm not protesting their right. But there's a very strong possibility that some of these people won't want to work with them because of their points of views. Very possible. Prodi, what's up, Prodi? Been a bit. Good to see you, Prodi_BK. Netflix stock was going down when first signed the deal, and now the stock is up 10%. Yeah, I said that earlier. Since the announcement of ditching the acquisition, seems like Netflix shareholders never liked Netflix buying WB. That's correct. That's very clear. That's the only way to read that. By the way, that's the only way to. Sorry, I'm going to adjust my camera a little bit. I hate that I'm so small in the frame there. I like it. I can still see. Well, oh well. I don't know what to do here, but like I'm trying to make it so it's a little bit bigger in the frame. Yeah, there we go. Okay, yeah. So now I'm at the top of my head's cut off. I don't want that. So yeah, so you see that the Netflix. Yeah, I think the Netflix shareholders made it clear where they stood on the situation, and have the Netflix the stock going back up made it clear that they were not a fan of Netflix getting WB and taking on that debt. And there's a lot of debt that's being taken on there for sure. The L Yankee, glad you mentioned, quote, elections. This media shifting makes me more concerned about the 28 election than already. The 28 election, you need to be worried about the midterms this year, bro. You need to be worried about the midterms this year. These are the elections they're going to try to steal. These are the elections they're going to try to stop, is the elections this year, the midterms. Because the midterms, it looks very clear from this point of view. And yes, we're still like 6 months away from the votes being cast. It looks very clear from this position that they are going to try to steal the elections and stop the elections from happening because they might lose the midterms. It looks very possible that they will lose the midterms, and that essentially stops everything that's going on the Trump train cold. Even Mike Johnson came out yesterday, I think, and said, if we lose the midterms, the Trump presidency is over. And so that's just an interesting thing that they're trying to push. So don't worry about 28, man. Just yet. Worry about 26. If they pull shenanigans in 26, then 28 is absolutely going to be even worse. Absolutely even worse. So Tim, I don't know if you guys saw this, but and I don't want to get too political, but if you guys saw this in Kansas, they have now made it illegal to drive your car on your driver's license if you identify as trans. You must go back, get a new driver's license that identifies with the sex you were born with, or else you are not allowed to drive in Kansas. You get pulled over. And remember, people are trying to push the idea that you have to use your ID to vote. So if trans people don't change their votes or change their driver's license to reflect the sex they were when they grew up, and by the way, that's asking a lot because there's a lot of emotion involved in that, then they probably won't be allowed to vote, probably won't be allowed to even register to vote. That's another way they're disenfranchising voters. Tim L. Sims says, well, ladies and gentlemen, HBO and DC that we all know and love right now is about to change forever for worse, in my opinion, with Paramount, with the upset win for WB, and John Oliver is fucked. Another great studio icon, in my opinion, ruined. Well, I don't know if he's ruined necessarily, Tim. I wouldn't go that far. And thank you very much for the very kind super chat, Tim. Thank you so much, brother, man. I wouldn't say that his opinion that he's ruined, because he can go to, like Conan has, he can go to do a podcast or do a show on YouTube or do a streaming thing. And I think there's possibilities that John Oliver can be even bigger going in that direction than staying on HBO and doing what he's doing last week tonight. There might be a lot of Jimmy Kimmel battles, a lot of Stephen Colbert battles with some of these anchors on some of these shows, which will be interesting to monitor. What happens to Bill Maher? Do they step on Bill Maher even harder? Does Bill Maher go further right just to keep a show going? Because he'd already leaned right most of the last few years. Will he fully go right now in order to keep the show going? Will we see more right-wing commentators than left-wing commentators on his show, or centrists on his show? That's going to be curious to see as well. So, and I agree. It's going to change Paramount WB as we know it. We've seen what's happened to CBS. That's your test case right there. It's horrific what's happened to CBS and how much they've tanked the credibility of CBS when it comes to news. So you imagine what's going to happen here with WB and Paramount for the HBO and DC. It's going to be interesting. Cowboys fan 92 says, if anyone in this chat's not seen the graphic going around online showing everything they will own, it's scary as fuck. Yeah, I read it earlier in the show, Cowboys fan. So thank you very much for the heads up again. A reminder, heads up again. Mackie Omet says, I'll be hopeful everything going will be fine, but time will tell, I guess. Also, what happened to the frog that parked illegally? It got towed. A little humor amongst the madness. Thank you, Matt. I appreciate you, bro. And I do like that photo. I think it's an AI photo, but I still like that photo. Yeah, I know. That's what people hope for. Yeah, the human spirit is always hoping for the best, but hoping for the best, I hope, doesn't lead to inaction, because we must also act so that the best can come about. It's sitting around just hoping isn't going to do anything. We have to act. We have to vote. We have to get involved in local elections. We have to make sure our state senators and representatives understand who we are and understand our points of views and hear from us. Like, there's a lot you can do here to reaffirm this. Figs 1210 says, mixed reception aside, Ellison's cut Running Man marketing by $20 million rather. Sure, there were themes they didn't like. People can't afford healthcare. Sure. Yeah. It's a great point. Will the movies already in motion, will they be undercut with how they sell this stuff, with how, things they say about this stuff, the stories they're telling? It's a great point. Will they start cutting some of the content or dicing it up so only certain things are seen? Terrence F. What's up, Terrence? Good to see you, bro. He says, John, you've been on point with this. I never doubted, but still sad stuff to see it actually happen. I know, brother. I know. People love to come after me. People love to make fun of me. People were saying the whole time, like, Rocha's crazy. He's being hysterical. No way, blah, blah, blah. And then it all comes to pass. I haven't been wrong about hardly any of this since the beginning, right? And this is the thing that it breaks my heart to see it happening. And so many people were like, no, you're being ridiculous. There's parameters set up. We have laws. We have regulations. And then what do those people do whenever this administration bursts through one of those supposed laws or regulations or rules? Oh my God, I can't believe they did it. I thought the rule was going to hold up. I thought the legislation was going to hold. I thought other people were going to step up. And I'm so tired of seeing that response. I'm so tired also of both sides do it cop out, because people want to protect their bag and not take a side and lose money and lose followers. They cop out with the lie that both sides are doing it. Or I'm not political. I'm not really, like we saw some of the hockey guys say, oh, they make it all political, and then they're wearing Trump merchandise. It's that kind of thing. Or Dana White coming out today. Dana White, of all people, who's been slurping off Trump for a while now, and coming out and saying, we should all just be able to get along. It's like, we did get along in the past when it was just Republicans versus Democrats, policies versus policies. We did get along. It's when this particular person has come onto the scene and is trying to destroy democracy. That's where it no longer becomes a difference of policies or opinions. It's about so much more than that. And the people who are not seeing that are either are not intelligent enough to see it, or B, do see it and are lying to you that they don't see it by hiding behind both sides do it or I'm not political. To me, this is not I don't think this is a battle that people can sit out, to be honest with you. The world is a political place, and sticking your head in the sand and wishing for it not to be is not the answer. FSB says, finally, conservatives have a voice. And yeah, you guys haven't had a fucking voice. 10 years, you guys don't shut up. We've heard you in everything. We've heard you guys have a voice on every single thing. On social media, all the podcasts, on YouTube, on Fox News, ONN, Newsmax, all these other places that you can hear you guys' points of views. What is the channel? What is the network? I forget. The Nexstar, right? And then Sinclair Broadcasting, all local stations pushing right-wing points of views. So what the fuck do you mean finally conservatives have a voice? I mean, like, really, it's one of the dumbest comments ever. I'm Two Volume says, didn't Trump just say he killed DEI at the State of the Union? Silly MAGA chuds are confused as usual. Yeah, DEI is not dead in any way, shape, or form. By the way, DEI was meant to create equality and diversity in our country, and I don't think that's dead because people do want that. I mean, you go outside right now, you go into play like today. We went to get food at get some salad at a fast food place, and it's telling me that I got to shut down some windows. Sorry, guys, I have to shut down some windows here. I got too many things running at once. Let's see here. Let me shut down some of these windows. We went there, and there were people of all color, people of all races and looks that were there where we were at. And so, when you go outside your door, you see that this is very much a melting pot country, and the people are complaining about it are the small minority in charge, sadly, because most people don't have that kind of hate in their heart. Most Americans don't have that hate in their heart. I believe that. So Kings SB23 says, keep speaking the truth, Rocha. I'll streak it and speak it. Thank you, bro. I appreciate that, Kings. Thank you very much for the kind super chat. Court Emperor says, don't forget to vote every single time. Yeah, I agree, bro. I've been voting since I was 20 years old. I've been voting in the elections to have voice. I've never bought into my voice doesn't matter. I've never bought into that. What you do matters. It puts energy into the world. And even if you're in a full-on red area or in a full-on blue area and you're a red person, red state voter rather, you should vote. No matter what your points of view is, you should vote. It matters to vote. You put energy into the world when you vote. Sam, what's up, Tim? Thank you very much. Another kind donation from you, Tim. Appreciate you, brother. If you ask me, I'm already fearing the future for DC Comics content, and not just Game of Thrones future, but also the future of one of the greatest cultural icons in HBO. That on top of what happens to the employee cuts to come. Yeah. I mean, it's real good. I mean, Jeff and I kicked this around before, like what would happen. Now, tomorrow, when we get together at 4 p.m. PT tomorrow on the hot mic, we are going to actually have to have a conversation about what happens next to DC, to Game of Thrones, to all the franchises, Transformers, all these franchises. Well, I guess WB, Harry Potter. What happens to all these franchises now that they are in control of David Ellison and Paramount? It's going to be interesting to see. Christopher says, Rocha, you got a lot of MAGA chodes in the chat today saying to deport you and being obnoxious. Someone left the sewer gate open. Are they really? I haven't noticed them saying that. But it says something, though, that, their reaction to a different point of view is to deport you. That speaks of an ignorance. Like, I can't handle that you don't agree with me. I must get rid of you. And that's ridiculous, right? It's so funny. The party of no more cancel culture loves to cancel you if you don't agree with their point of view. But, they're not, probably most of them are not that smart enough to really get that logic and the hypocrisy of their logic. And this is what I get at, right? Like, I am happy to have a sit down and converse with people who have a different point of view. I love it. I enjoy it. I learn, right? I may not agree with them, but I learn. And as long as they're open to hearing what I have to say and giving it some consideration, some thought, I am very happy with all of that. I think that's where we need to come back to. But unfortunately, too many people are invested in dividing us. Too many people are making money off the division, and we are paying the price. And regular people out in our heartland on the coasts, they're paying the price for this kind of divisiveness. Families are breaking up. What was the one in Texas? I think it was Texas. The father shot and killed his own daughter because she had a different point of view than him, and they were having a fight, and he killed his own child. Like, this is what the fuck you talk about Trump derangement syndrome. That's the real derangement, is the people who are invested in believing everything this man says and will kill their own child in order to make sure their point of view is the prominent point of view. That's scary. That should not be happening in our world. Jay Bling says, I think this will tank both studios financially. Talk about over leverage. That's actually a great point, Jay Bling, which I'm sorry I haven't brought up yet. But, Paramount's going to be taking on a lot of debt with WB. And as you saw the reports yesterday, I think it was, they came out with the reports like WB or Paramount is struggling right now financially. Yes, the prognostications for the future seem rosy, but that all depends on if their movies make money or not. So the question becomes, like, are they taking on so much debt that they will sink But I have a feeling that because they've got friends in the government, that the government will find a way to funnel money to them, to do contracts with them to keep them afloat. That's how it works. You grease the skids, right? You pay the man back for standing up for you, for pushing your point of view. That's what we've seen throughout this administration. And so I wouldn't be surprised if that happens with Paramount as well. Michael McKenzie, 4726. Good to see you, Michael. Says next season, the pit will be Trump's healthcare. Trump's healthcare is awesome. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that'll be all positive about the healthcare situation for sure. So yeah, 100%. All right, I've not seen the chat. So if some of you guys is anybody being really bad? If you guys think, is anyone being bad in the chat, I will absolutely get them out of here because we don't want any toxicity in here. Different points of views are fine. Toxicity is what we don't want here in the chat. So let's move on to some of these Streamlabs as well. Do I have any Streamlabs? Oh, here we go. All right. Yeah, fantastic. What's up? Fred says, hey, John Rocha. I'm not surprised that Netflix backed out because the price was getting ridiculous. WB can opt out of selling to Paramount, but I doubt it. Right? I don't think they will. I would be very surprised if the WB board all of a sudden went, well, no, maybe we don't want to sell. That would be really surprising. It's possible, but really surprising. Fred also says, people worrying about the theatrical window was BS, and it reminds me of people complaining about Kamala and believing the misinformation and forgetting how horrifically awful the other side was. Oh, yeah. I think a lot of creatives, especially, and let's be clear, in my belief, I think there are a lot of liberal and progressive creatives, a lot of them white, who are happy that this is happening because they will keep working. They're quietly happy. They may be outwardly protesting, outwardly upset, but I think in their quiet moments with their friends or their family, they're saying, at least I'll get to work more. I'll get to audition more and blah, blah, blah. Because I have some friends who revealed to me when Hollywood started casting more people of color, started looking for more people of color to, deal with the diversity issue that had been highlighted a few years ago. I had some white actor friends complain to me about the fact that they weren't getting as many auditions as before because studios were looking for more people of color to fill these roles. And they were upset about it. Instead of being like, this is great. I'm a liberal. I'm a progressive. This is what I want, diversity. But of course, what I've seen so many times is that people who want diversity, who it will affect them, don't like it when it affects them. They think it's okay if it affects someone else, but if it affects me, I no longer want diversity. And that's where it becomes like, well, what are your real morals and principles if they can be changed by the fact that your bank account is going to be affected? What did you think you were standing up for? What did you think the end result was? I saw that happen at Collider. A couple of white writers were upset because people were wanting to see people of color to be permanent writers on their staff. Because when I was there, the entire writing staff was white. Of all the main writing staff that were full-timers, all of them from the editors on down, they were all white. They would crow all the time about how studios need to be diverse and studios need to hire more diverse directors and tell more diverse points of views. But when a black writer went at a white writer who worked at Collider at the time and said, hey, you call for diversity. I'm looking at your list of writers here. They're all white. Why don't you have any full-time black writers, full-time people of color writers, full-time writers who fall into a certain category? Like, why don't you have that? And the person got upset. It's like, why are you trying to make me lose my job? And it's like, wait, you're writing articles about diversity, but about calling out the studios, but you can't be called out? It's nonsense. Utter fucking nonsense. And I saw the hypocrisy all the time in this business as an actor and then at what I do now. SLID says, do you think that we could see a resurgence of new Hollywood through indie filmmakers and studios like A24, Neon, and Mubi? Quite possibly. I think this is a great question you ask here, SL, because you look at the situation whenever, we know this in life. Some of you are old enough to know this in life. You've experienced this. When there is a vacuum or something is removed, something organically, naturally comes in to fill it, right? So yes, possibly A24, Neon, Mubi, these companies now might get more funding from outside sources who want to see more content that fits their points of view, their ideological points of view. And so they'll do more content down the road. That's quite possible. Staffers that worked at Warner Brothers and Paramount that don't want to push that point of view, may move over to these smaller studios if the studios expand to have room for more employees because they're taking on more money, taking on more projects. It's very possible, bro. It's very possible for sure. Stephen Wolf says something. I can't even read that. I don't know what it said. Fantastic says, it's funny hearing the crybabies cry about DEI not being fair when they were the reason it was created in the first place because qualified minorities were getting passed over by unqualified people. It happened to me. I know, Fred, you're right. It's happening now. We see that. I think it blows my mind when I see people of color or black people or women who cry about DEI when like if it wasn't for these programs, you might not have had an opportunity, right? You might not have. It's not saying that you didn't deserve your shot at it. It's saying that studios or employers took a moment and actually look. Because I mean, are you telling that before DEI, every single person who was hired was qualified for that job over everyone else? It's utter nonsense. It's absolutely utter nonsense. Jeff and I fight about this all the time. Are you going to tell me that before the calls for diversity came, every single white actor was hired because they were the best actor over other actors who were there of color? It's nonsense. It's ridiculous. Or black, it's nonsense. It's ridiculous. Or Latino, whatever you want to say. It's nonsense, And so it's just like, it's always been people playing favorites. It's always been, and not in every case, right? But it's always been there. People playing favorites, people hiring their buddies, people hiring the people they know. It's always been that way, right? And so this pushback on DEI, I thought there's a lot of hypocrisy underneath it, or at the foundation of all of that nonsense. All right, so let's see if we got any more. Frodo Cop says, we need more people like you now more than ever. Thank you for being a voice of reason within this insanity. Yeah, look, I appreciate that. It's very kind of you, bro. But this stuff takes a lot out of me. If you notice, I don't do a lot of these episodes of The Truth because it's really scary to be out there and be a voice that speaks against stuff that's going on, because you see what's happening to people in the streets. You see what's happening when you watch those social media videos. You see the sadness of families being broken up because of things that are going on. You see people getting arrested for offering different points of views. You hear that certain government agencies want to have access to people's social media so they can monitor them. Like, it's those kinds of things that are really scary. It's almost like dissent and freedom of speech is being choked out. And so if I felt that, if I felt more safe to speak out more, I would. But something like this, through the prism of Paramount, WB, and Netflix, allows me to speak out a little bit on this video. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I would, but you have to be careful. You have to be careful out there. And I try to be fair in my analysis. I try to be fair in my point of view. I want to have a functioning society that is fair and balanced. I want to see a world where we find compromise instead of division and anger. And I think the people who legitimately want us to come together are the people who should be in charge, not the people who want to separate us so they can financially benefit from it, or the people who want to be part of the algorithm that seeks to divide us so that they can reap financial benefits from it. And I think too many people have bad faith arguments to try to destroy our community and our unity. You cannot have community without the word unity. And that, to me, is where I find the problem on so many levels. And I'd like to advocate for more of that. But it also takes a lot out of me to do this kind of stuff. Like, once we're done, I'm probably going to lay down for 3 hours. I was going to go see Scream 7, but I might not go see it now tonight. I might go see it tomorrow in the morning instead. But yeah, it's a dangerous time all around, man. But I appreciate you saying what you said, Photocop, and to everyone who said positive things about me coming on and talking about this stuff. I appreciate you all madly, because it is hard. It is not easy. I'm no Brian Tyler Cohen. I'm no who's the other guys that you see? Mockler, that guy, Adam Mockler. Like, I respect those guys for being able to do the things that they do. Who's the actor from Bob's Burgers? Sam Cedar. I mean, God love those guys for being able to do things. I don't have the system set up to be able to do it. I would love to be able to do it, but I don't have the system set up to be able to do it. But who knows? Maybe I'll be on more than I think. Jay Blink says, maybe Netflix takes heated rivalry going forward. The Hunting Wives, another queer show, did well for Netflix. That's very true. Yeah, maybe they take on heated rivalry or these other more LGBTQ plus stuff. Maybe it goes to these other networks and they become, massive projects for them and make massive money for those companies, while these other projects for maybe WB and Netflix and Paramount don't. So, yeah. Fitzab says DEI is reverse racism, like quotas, earn it on merit, not skin color. Yeah, but that's never been the truth. That's never existed, FSB. Never. It has never, ever existed. It's a dream. It's a fantasy to believe that before DEI, everyone got their job on merit. Everyone got their job because they were the better person in the room. It's nonsense. It's fucking stupid. That is not true. It has always been, in a lot of cases, it's been favoritism. It's been, well, he looks like me or she looks like me, I'm going to give them the job. You know, women fought hard to be considered in the workplace because men were just hiring their buddies who were way less qualified than a lot of these women, right? Or they were hiring their white buddies who were way less qualified than a lot of these African-American candidates or Latino candidates or Asian candidates or candidates of color or women candidates of color, right? We saw that. So this idea that it's reverse, earn it on merit. Tell you what, I would love that to be the truth. But the truth is human beings don't work like that. A majority of them do not work like that. Whether conscious or unconscious, the cute way of saying unconscious racism is a term I've always rejected. Because if you're intelligent, you can be conscious of what you're doing. Wacky Wally 66 says, thanks, all of this sucks. We need reform. I know, but where? From where? We don't control any of the houses of Congress. And right now, it looks like they're lining up to try to stop the midterms from happening so that we don't take control of any of the houses of Congress to be able to push back on this agenda. So we'll see. KJ7457 says, John, your truth episodes views are very impressive. It shows that people want to hear your views and opinions. You are amazing. Thank you, KJ. I appreciate that. I think it also depends on the subject matter. But yes, I do. I'm always very humbled that people want to hear what I have to say and my points of views, because I'm very hard on myself. I'll tell you, to be honest, I'm very hard on myself. Sometimes I don't do an episode because I'm like, I don't have all the information. People might get upset. People will feel misled by me. I don't want to give bad information out. And then I go, do I want to sit here and research this for 3 hours? And then I don't know if people are even going to watch. So it becomes that kind of cycle in my mind. But I'm trying to break that pattern and do better on that. So I appreciate, and words like what you said, KJ, help a lot. What other people have sent in and said as well help a lot. But thank you so much, dude. I appreciate you. You're always very positive about what I do. And I thank you so much. Blade Out 148 says, for the effort. Thank you, man. We're in Russia 2.0, like the early days of Putin, complete with oligarchs. Yeah, I don't want to believe that, man. I don't want to believe that. We still have a lot of areas where people are pushing points of views that contradict the people in power. I think it's going to be very sad to see CNN go the way of CBS. That's going to be heartbreaking. I think a lot of good people are going to lose their jobs there because they dare to speak truth to power. And I don't know what we're going to look like in 8 months, because I think this deal will go down before September. They're going to try to get this deal done so they can start changing CNN before the midterms. That's what they're hoping for. And so I hope that another network pops up to counter what we see, because that's what happened with the right wing, right? They felt that the quote unquote liberal media was too liberal, too left leaning. So they created their own networks, Fox News, ONN, Newsmax, even News Nation with Cuomo there pushing the right wing points of view, that meathead. You see that there's a pushback. So will there now be a counter pushback from the left where new networks are going to pop up to counter the right wing media? I hope so. I would love to see it. I think that would be amazing to see that, because as I said, it's good to have balance. You must have balance. It's important so that people who are coming up, who are young and undecided, can hear from both sides and make up their own minds. And I think that's really essential. Shay Nasty says, hey, John, just saying thanks for the great content and always standing for what you believe in and not hiding. Get yourself a drink on me when you watch Scream 7. Thank you, Shay Nasty. Maybe I will go now. I could use a drink after this for sure, after all this stuff. So thank you so much, Shay. Very kind of you to send some support in. And I love that avatar, that Gambit avatar. That's fucking great. Dig it, bro. And thank you. Thank you very much for the kind words and saying what I do to stand up for what I believe in. It's true. Giant Paper Panda says, completely agree, Rocha. We need your voice. Keep speaking up. Thank you, Giant Paper Panda. I appreciate that. Y'all keep watching. Maybe I'll keep speaking up more. If y'all keep watching in large numbers and good numbers, maybe I'll keep speaking up more. I got to be honest with you. A piece of me has been kicking around the idea of, just going solo more on the channel, doing more shows like this, talking about more topics like this. I've just got to be okay with the occasional episode not doing so well numbers wise, because I like interacting with you guys. You guys know since the beginning of this channel, I've enjoyed the interaction with you all live. I've brought when I was first starting out the channel, I brought some of you all on live to have conversations with me while we were doing the show. So I like you guys. I love like this. I dig it. This is what a community is, where I thrive the best. And so we'll see if I start doing more of these for sure as the days going on, man. So I appreciate you. Thank you very much, Giant Paper Panda. Matt at the movies. What's up, Matt? Great TVA shirt, bro. For me, the biggest thing is balance. Yes, as I said, one studio should not control this much. I'd rather have content being diverse and not be under one single vision. Absolutely. Absolutely agree with you, bro. That's how we advance as a society, is to be able to open the door for multiple points of views, to hear from people with multiple points of views, and go forward and hear what they have to say about these topics. Because I love it when a right winger says something, and I go, oh, you know what? I hadn't seen it that way. I actually hadn't seen it from that perspective. I mean, Me Too was a great illumination for me as a man. Because for me, when I was younger, there was a way that you kind of like, you asked and you pursued women, and you sent letters or emails. I was back in the day, we sent letters. You called them. You tried to, if they said no, you kept persisting because, you thought, well, they need to see how much I want them. And then you hear the stories from Me Too, and you go, oh man, that was the wrong way to do things. That was the wrong way to women on the other side of it telling you how they felt being on the receiving end of that stuff, and being worn down. And now when I see it, or I watch it in old TV shows or old movies, when I watch that attitude, I cringe at it, because it's what we were taught to do by the media that we were consuming, right? Or by our own male fathers or uncles or mentors or male figures in our lives. So that's the thing. But if Me Too hadn't happened, I think a lot of men wouldn't have heard from women, wouldn't have heard how women fear being out there in the world, what they have to endure from men in the world. And so I think it's important to hear all points of view so you can have a much more rounder approach to the world, for sure. Okay, what's up, Karen? Karen von der Maiden says, what happens to Mark Ruffalo, who speaks out now? Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, obviously, he probably won't do any Warner Brothers or Paramount films. And he stays Disney, stays Hulk, maybe stays in that area, does more of the independent films. Mark is a really great actor. I was just talking with a friend of mine about Mark Ruffalo, from my friend. We've been friends for 30 years. We were texting each other. He's in Nebraska now. We were texting about Mark Ruffalo, and he asked me because he was watching. Oh man, what's the one with Laura Linney that he did where she worked at the bank? Something. I can't remember what the name of the movie was, but he texted me. He goes, "Did you ever talk to Mark Ruffalo when you were doing Wind Talkers?" And I said, "Yes, actually, because that film that he did with Laura Linney had come out the same year, and so I had seen the movie, and I was on set. You can count on me. Yes, thank you, Roach Smythe. You can count on me. Great movie. It's out on Criterion now. It just came out on Criterion. I think 4K possibly too." But I remember going up to Mark Ruffalo on the set of Wind Talkers, and I was an extra. I was a glorified extra. I was there most of the time that they were shooting. And I said to him, I saw your movie. I think you're amazing. I think you're going to be someone we hear about for years. Now, I had no idea how this was all going to go. I was more looking at it from, you've got the talent to be someone we're going to have in our lives as an actor for a very long time. But I had no idea the incredible journey he was going to go on. And now to be this outspoken person, first right out there on the front line, to call people out and to call the Trump administration out, call out James Cameron. I think it's amazing what he's morphed into and become. Man, people make fun of him, but whatever. I don't give a shit. People make fun of him, because that to me speaks of ignorance and unintelligent. A person who's unintelligent, because Mark is a very intelligent guy. And when you watch him, like I watched him on that interview with Mehdi Hassan on Zateo, and I was like, I wish I knew Mark Ruffalo. I wish I could call up Mark Ruffalo and be like, hey, man, can we talk for 30 minutes about this stuff or 20 minutes about this stuff? I wish I had a connection to Mark Ruffalo that I could sit down with him and interview him, even on this channel, about his points of views and how he approaches being an actor now in this world and the way things are going. So, yeah, I would love to do that down the road. We got more support coming in. Thank you guys for sticking around. We're about 600 of you still hanging out with us. I appreciate you guys madly. I have Two Fly Cam says, if you're afraid of what can happen to your safety if you speak out against Trump, doesn't that reveal how far gone a good portion of the country is? Yes. And we see it. Sadly, we see it in our world. We see people enduring right-wing violence. If you go on to TikTok, go on to all these social medias, you see videos of, we just saw the video of that police chief attacking these students, teenagers, who were protesting, who were doing an anti-ICE protest at school because libs of TikTok sent them down there. Or it seems like libs of TikTok sent them down there, and they sent some agitators down there, and the chief of police showed up and grabbed a young girl by her neck and was choking her out. What the fuck are you doing? What is wrong with you? But you're right. This shows you how far gone some people are. Some of these fragile men can't handle someone having a different point of view, and especially a person they think they can beat up. Then they step forward and administer physical violence on these people. And it is horrific. It is horrific. We had 2 people killed, Renee Good and Alex Pretty murdered, for standing up against what's happening. So yes, I do think there are sections of the country who are a little far gone for sure. Gregory Drop chooses support, John. See something, stay strong, but love. Thank you very much, Greg. Same thing to you, brother, man. Gregory. Jacob Balonzo says, thank you for speaking your truth. As always, you're an inspiration in so many ways. You're inspirational in so many ways. It's very kind of you to say, bro. I always look forward to your podcasts on my walks with my dog. Oh, well, thanks for taking me with you on your walk. Honestly, it's very humbling, bro, because I listened to podcasts when I was hiking in LA before I decided to do this as a career and as a life. So the fact that you take me with you is a very humbling thing and an honor of mine and a blessing. So thank you very much, Jacob. I appreciate you, bro. It's very kind of you to, for any of you who take me with you on your walks or your workouts. I remember in the old days of the Top 10, we had that guy who would listen to us while he was taking his long baths in the bathtub. So I'm always humbled by the fact that people want to listen to anything I have to say. So thank you, Jacob. Very kind of you. Wayne Fern 77 says, if Paramount goes down the right-wing rabbit hole, it will fail. Another theatrical studio would rise like Apple. Creatives are liberal for a reason. I agree. That's a very great point, man. That's a very great point. If people wanted right-wing content in their movies and in their TV shows, there would be a shit ton of right-wing content making billions of dollars. But even James Cameron, who sided with MAGA and the right wing in this Paramount WB Netflix battle, he made a very liberal movie. The Avatar series is a very liberal, progressive series about colonizers being the bad guy and the colonized people being the good guy, trying to fight off these colonizers, and the good women, rather, as well, trying to fight off these colonizers. Even the nature elements of it all is very liberal, with the whales and the water, the sea and the creatures in the water, connecting your hair to the planet there, to connect with the spirit of the planet. That's very, very liberal. So again, to see him siding with the anti-liberal people in Paramount so that he could just keep making his films, I think is just fucking asinine, to be honest with you. Utterly asinine. Okay, let's see. Let's see. Anything else in terms of Streamlabs or Super Chats? 4 people have sent stuff in. No, I think that's everything. Okay, I think we should wrap it up here, y'all. We've been going for an hour and 40 minutes. I am absolutely just stunned that so many of you wanted to hang out with me tonight and talk about all this stuff. It means the world to me on so many levels. I hope I've gotten the information out to you all. I hope as you all were dealing with this information, I was a good companion for you as you were consuming all this information as it was breaking. We had well over 700 people watching us for a majority of the show. So thank you very much to all of you who stuck around even this far. You're the best. Dennis Hoffman, what's up, Dennis? Always great to see you, brother. Much love, John. This news sucks. Besides the right-wing aspect of this, Skydance track record is awful. That's very, very true, for sure, man. You're absolutely right. Let me get this guy out of here. So let's get this guy out of I mean, if you have to use John Doe, it's because you're a coward and don't want to use your real name. So thank you, Dennis. I appreciate you madly. Thanks to everybody who listens to us, listens to me here on the channel. Don't forget, as I said, the hot mic tomorrow, 4 p.m. PT. More information is going to come out, I'm sure, over this next 24-hour news cycle. We will cover it all and talk about it all. Jeff and I will discuss this whole thing. I texted Jeff this news, and he said, insane. That was his one-word reaction. So we will have a conversation about all of this tomorrow for sure. We will record an episode of Geek Buddies tomorrow as well, which I'll probably put up on Saturday. Maybe I'll do another episode of The Truth on Sunday morning or Sunday at some point to talk about all this stuff. Maybe I'll even have some guests who come on to join me to talk about this stuff. We will see. But thank you all so much for tonight. Please remember to subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell button so you see we're dropping all the content, especially emergency content just like this. Would appreciate it. Let me know your comments about everything down in the comment section that I talked about here. And please keep it as civil as you can. I will delete your toxic comments, so please keep it civil if you don't mind down there in the comment section below. And don't forget, we are a podcast. As Jacob just said, taking me along with your walk, the John Rocha podcast channel exists. So we'd love it. I'd love it if you'd subscribe to the John Rocha podcast channel. You'll find all our shows on there, including shows like this to listen to, except for Hot Mic and Geek Buddies, which are their own separate channels. Everything else is on the podcast feed. So if you'd subscribe there, I would really appreciate it. All right, much love to all of you. I hope you're dealing with this news as best you can. I know it's scary out there, but you got to have hope. You got to fight. You got to believe. And I'm with you there, fighting and hoping and believing as well. And we'll see what happens. But here we go. For God's sakes, here we go, man. All right, I think that's everything. Thank you. Much love. And I'll say what I say at the end of every one of these episodes. Please remember, whatever you need to do to get through the next second, next minute, next day, next hour, next second, next minute, next hour, next day, next week, next month, next year. I want you to do that because I know it looks tough. I know it doesn't look easy, but we need you around. We just had 3 people take their lives recently, 3 famous people take their lives. Or people were connected. Martin Short's daughter, Keith Carradine, and Rondale Moore, NFL player, take their lives. And mental health is a really serious thing. It's a tough thing. It's a hard thing. You never know who's going to succumb to it and who doesn't. But I'm trying to encourage as many of you to stay strong and fight your battles and make sure you use your tools to get through the dark times. And I've recently been ending my shows with this thing. Remember, for those of you who are feeling like you can't get through the dark times, if you're still around and you're listening to my voice, you are undefeated confronting the dark times because you're still here. So you can stay undefeated. You can find your way through it and stay undefeated because I want you around. We need you around. It's the sensitive ones that we need around. It's the people who care, the empaths, the people who feel this stuff so deeply and it breaks them. We need you to stay around. We need you to keep the fight going. It's important. We need that energy in the world. So just want to put that out there. All right. Love you guys. I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care of yourselves, and we'll talk to you next time with another brand new episode of The Truth. Peace until then. To all of you.